In this video, we're going to look at how to manage your web templates for sales. So we manage those by expanding the admin area here, coming down to web settings, where we can access our web quote, sales order, and invoice. So before we get into them, let's have a look at exactly what a web template is. If I come up here and enter into the sales area and come into quotes, I'll open an existing quote. Now there's two ways that I can view this. I can click on the Preview as Customer button and this brings up the web form version. So this is the web template that we're going to be working with in a moment. So you can configure this and customize it to your needs. The other way of viewing a quote is by using a PDF document. So we can generate that and send that to the customer, or we can send both versions to the customer. So when it comes to sending it out to the customer, we can copy the URL here and paste that into either an email or an SMS, or we can set up an email or an SMS template that already has the URL loaded. So that's automatically going to merge through when it's sent. If I hit edit on the quote, we can go and select which web template is being used. So you can see I have multiple ones in my system. So let's now have a look at how to set up a web quote template, because the process is pretty much identical for orders and invoices as well. So coming down here into web settings and quote settings, this is my stock of current web templates for quotes. I can have as many as I want in the system and I can specify which one I want to use by default. Now just because you've set it as a default doesn't mean you're locked into that choice. It just means that on your quotes, that web template will automatically be selected here, but as you can see, we could edit this and go and select a different template instead. To create a new web quote template, simply click on the Add button up here, and this gives us the new form. We can give the template a name, so in this case, I'm just going to call it my test template. We can pick whether or not it's our default, so I'll turn that off in this case because I've got a number of other templates in the system. So it basically means you can have different layouts, different branding styles, terms and conditions, and then be able to select between them. I can also choose whether or not the part numbers for the items that I'm adding onto the quote will be visible to the customer. So I'm going to tick yes in this case. If you don't want them to be visible, just leave that unchecked. We're then going to pair the web quote template with a PDF template, an email template, and an SMS template. So that means that every time the particular template is used in here, the system will default to a particular email and SMS template so that we don't need to worry about making those choices. So that means that we can have differently branded quotes for web forms that are paired with different branded emails or SMS, etc. from different senders. So once I've made my choices in here, I can then scroll down and I can choose whether or not the terms and conditions have to be accepted before a customer can accept the order online. So let's have a look at how that works. If I preview this as the customer, it will come up and over here you can see that I can't click on the accept order button until I've accepted the quote up here, and then I'll be able to go through. So we can see the terms and conditions here showing in a little pop-up box. So if we come back, requiring terms and conditions acceptance just means that the customer has to come and tick on this box and agree to the terms and conditions before they can go ahead and proceed with the order. When it comes to putting in your terms and conditions, we can hop over to this Terms tab here. And as we saw, we can have them in a little pop-up box, or we can have them as a chunk of text at the bottom of the quote. So it's as simple as copying and pasting your terms and conditions in here and then using the formatting bar to go and edit how you would like that to look. Underneath here, if we're giving customers discounts, we can choose whether or not we display those as a dollar or a percentage amount. So in this case, I'm going to turn on both of those functions. Scrolling down a little bit further, we now get into the look and feel of the template. So we can drag and drop a logo. So I'll go and select a logo file and throw that in. The system will look up the colors associated in that logo and give you some suggestions here about what colors might be good for the quote. So whatever changes I'm making here, this little preview over on the side is going to reflect those changes so that I can see in real time what my web quote template is going to look like. So I can go and make some fairly festive selections in here to do with my coloring, and we can see the result over on the side. I can also go and change how the information is displayed on the quote. So I might want this right aligned, and I can also have the layout sitting over on the left. I can change fonts. I can choose whether or not the headings are bolded, and all the time this little preview is updating with those details. So once I'm finished, I can hit on Save and Close, and I'll be shown a preview of what my web quote template is going to look like. I can now come back to the list, and we can see test number 5 is on the list along with all of my other templates. You can then check out how that applies to a customer by opening up an existing quote and then going and selecting the new template. So test number 5 in this case, hitting and Save and Close, and then hitting on the Preview as Customer button. So that's a fairly festive and interesting looking design, and we can basically see what that's going to look like for a customer. So if you're happy with that, you could go and set that as your system default. If not, you can just have that as another option that you can go and select from when you are working with web quotes. Now, another benefit of working with web quotes is that customers will be able to accept their orders online and go straight through to a payment. So if we have a look at this quote here as an example, we can choose which customers can accept their orders online. So I can edit this here, tick that box, hit Save and Close, and then regenerate my web form. And then once I've come down and clicked on I accept this quote, I've got the option to come straight through to an order in here. So if I'm the customer, I can throw in my purchase order number here. I can also add in a signature, and I can ask questions about the quote. So in this case, I'm going to ask if it includes shipping. Once I hit submit, a couple of things will happen in the background. So that's now appended the web quote to include the question. The person who the quote is assigned to, so basically the person that's the salesperson here, is going to get an email telling them that the customer has asked a question. If I refresh this record, the status will have updated itself from current to customer comment. So I can quickly differentiate which quotes have been commented on by a customer and conveniently put those into a filter for future use. So that's now updated to customer comment. On the timeline of the quote, it's also gone and added an entry in here with the query, and we can see the email is queued over here to the salesperson, which in this case it's me. So once I get that email notification, I can come back into CRM by clicking on the link in the email and come and add an answer. So once I've put that in, the system will go and send an email to the customer and say your quote has been responded to. So when the customer comes back into the quote, we can refresh it and we can now see that entire Q&A has been captured here. So that's really good. If there's a bit of a haggle or a back and forth going on, we can have that tracked as part of the web quote and as also part of the timeline on that quote record. So now that we've had the back and forth, I can tick accept, I can add a signature, and I can also add a purchase order number in here. If I've made a mistake with the signature, I can start again and add a new one. And then once I hit accept order, depending on how your database is configured, the customer can be taken straight through to a payment stage. So for this to happen, you need to have integrated your system with one of the payment gateways that we offer. So that's either eWay, Stripe, or Easy Debit. So you can see here, the customer can choose to pay with a credit card online or request an invoice. And you can also set up your system to automatically create a sales order and an invoice in the system, or you can leave that process as manual. So you can manage those settings for your quotes from Admin, General, and we have this section here called Quote Settings. So in here, we can choose the default validity date of the quotes that we give, whether or not that default can accept online box is ticked. So it means that every new quote that we create, that box will automatically be ticked so that someone doesn't have to remember to do it. You can also turn that feature off. Simple quote acceptance means that when a customer accepts an order, all the system will do is mark the quote as accepted. So if you want to enable that and basically manually push things to sales orders and invoices, you'll want to tick this box. Otherwise, the system will automatically create you a sales order and an invoice, and you can then determine when those are sent to the customer. So just remember that any changes you make on this page, you need to scroll down to the bottom here and click on the update button to apply those changes. So if we come back into web settings and come into sales order settings, the process is very similar to what we did with our web quote template. So we can click here for a new web layout, and the form is going to look pretty much identical to what we looked at a second ago. So we can go and give this template a name. We can also select which one is our default template. Again, we can choose to show part numbers. we can go and pair this with a PDF template, an email template, and an SMS template if we have one, and we can choose whether or not discounts are displayed as a dollar, a percentage, or both. We can then go and add a logo and do our formatting changes here, and this preview will update in line with our changes. So once we save and close that, we get a nice preview here, and we can then come and hop into the system and pick a sales order to test this out on and see what it looks like. So in this case, we can hit on the edit button, and we'll also down here have a web template field. So in here, I can go and select the new template that I just created, hit save and close, and then choose to preview this as the customer. And then I can see exactly how I've configured that to look. So again, you can have multiple different sales order templates in the system and then go and select from them when you're working, and you can also specify a default. If we come into the invoice settings area, these are all our web invoice templates. So we can create a new one by clicking on the button, giving this one a name as well. We can also choose whether or not we want to have this as our default template, show part numbers, and again, we can pair this with PDF, email, and SMS templates, choose how discounts are displayed, and then go and conduct our formatting. So once I've saved that, I can do exactly the same thing and come through to invoices here, select an invoice, and then go and change the web template field down here to correspond with the template I just created. Hit save and close, and then I'll be able to view this online. Now with invoices, if you've set up one of those payment gateways to be integrated with your database, the customer is also going to have the option here to go and make a payment. So they can click on that button and come straight through here, add their details. That payment then goes straight into CRM, lists itself against the invoice, and you can sync that back to your accounting system. So you can see it's fairly straightforward to set up your templates, and you can have numerous templates in the system. Now, when we were talking about linking these with PDF, email, and SMS templates, all of those are managed from this area in here. So you can basically go and pre-configure other templates so that when you get to doing your web quotes and sales orders and invoices, you can go and link them up in there.